Hi, my name is Ben Rarick and I'm the Executive Director. I wanted to tell you a few things about how our board meetings are run. So we typically have 6 board meetings a year and they usually fall on Wednesday and Thursday for 2-day meetings. There's one exception to that, and that is the annual retreat meeting, which is a 3-day meeting starting on Tuesday and extending to Thursday. That annual retreat meeting has historically happened in September, but most recently the board has experimented with doing that at our July meeting. The dress code for board meetings is business casual, except for the annual retreat, which is typically more informal. Our meetings are always public, they're always audio recorded, and they're sometimes videotaped or streamed online, and they are also occasionally televised on TVW or a similar public station. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the events that lead up to a board meeting, the events that occur during a board meeting, and then also some of the follow-up items that occur after a board meeting. So the information that you receive about a board meeting starts to roll in as early as 5 weeks before the date. On that date, you'll start to receive meeting notices from my executive assistant. This will pertain to confirming your attendance at the meeting, arranging your travel preferences, and your hotel room needs. In the following week, which is 4 weeks out, you'll start to resolve some of these issues with my executive assistant so she can turn back any unused hotel rooms and confirm flight reservations if those are necessary. About 2 weeks before the meeting, staff begin to wrap up preparations for the materials that will be in the packet, the board packet that is sent to members and is the basis for all actions and discussions that occur at the board meeting. According to our bylaws, 7 days before the meeting, staff post the packet online and simultaneously send a printed version to board members who request it. So we have been attempting to move to a paperless operation, but understandably there are some board members who still prefer to receive a written packet for the purposes of taking notes, etc. Additionally, 7 days before the meeting, you'll typically receive a travel email from my executive assistant laying out all the details of your travel, your hotel, and any meals, logistics, and site visit directions. 4 to 5 days before the meeting, you'll receive a hard copy of the packet in the mail. And around this time, you will also receive an email from the staff that provides a link to a video, much like we are doing right now, where I spend anywhere from 4 to 7 minutes walking you through some of the key materials in the packet, things to be particularly aware of. All right, now I'd like to talk a little bit about what happens at the actual meeting. The meeting itself, as we've gone over, is a Wednesday and Thursday structure. However, it is not unusual for us to have activities as a board both before the meeting on Tuesday and sometimes after the meeting on Thursday evening or Friday. Let's start with before the meeting. It is not unusual for the board to have what we call a community forum on Tuesday. Community forums are open to the public. They often provide a more convenient venue for members of the public to come and have a discussion with the State Board of Education. Again, thinking that our board meetings are during the workday. It is uncommon for teachers or parents, working parents, to be able to join us in a community forum in the evening. Sometimes provides that opportunity. At those community forums, we typically break into small groups and provide citizens who have chosen to join us on that evening an opportunity to dialogue with board members and staff in a small group environment. These have been successful and increasingly well attended. When we started, we had probably 5 to 10 community partners show up at these meetings, but more recently we've had as many as 100 or more show up, and it's more typically in the range of 20 to 40 attendees. Members of the community really appreciate it when you do show up at these events, which again are typically on Tuesday, the night before the meeting. A typical structure for a board meeting is to have perhaps a panel of presenters from either OSPI our peer agencies, or perhaps stakeholder groups who are impacted by our work, as well as presentations from staff, both from myself as the executive director, but also the line staff as well. It is not uncommon for the board to hear a presentation on data impacting our student achievement goals in Washington State, as well as to be discussing pertinent policy issues relating to our specific authorities under law. There are sometimes school visits during these board meetings. We have tried different structures. Sometimes those visits are during Wednesday and Thursday. They are sometimes also done on Tuesday or sometimes on Friday. When they are on Tuesday and Friday, we typically use a not mandatory model, so there is an invitation for board meeting members to join for the school visits, but it is not considered part of the State Board of Education meeting. There are also a couple of other extremely useful resources that I would recommend you review. One is what we call the video pre-briefings. Each meeting, as I mentioned earlier, there's a 4 to 7 minute video that I do to point out key issues that will be relevant at each meeting and provide guidance as to navigating the packet that has been sent to board members. Those are available, I think, for board meetings going back almost 2 years. Another resource that would be very instructive would be looking at what we call the board meeting highlights. So that is kind of, I would say, an abbreviated version of the board minutes. So whereas the board minutes might be extremely detailed, the board highlights would give you a very good summary in a matter of maybe perhaps a page or two about the actions and discussions of the board at a particular meeting. As you'll see from the materials, our board meetings are around the state, so we still do travel to western, central, and eastern parts of the state. We typically have our meetings in educational facilities. That might be an educational service district in a particular region, a school district office, or sometimes a museum or other available facility. The attendance at our board meetings varies considerably and depends on the relative controversy of a particular topic that we might be reviewing. At its low end, we might have only a dozen people in the audience representing key stakeholder groups who monitor our meetings on an ongoing basis. At our high point, we've had as many as 100 people attend a board meeting if the topic is something that is receiving considerable media attention. Every once in a while, we have what's called a special meeting of the State Board of Education. This is a meeting that is beyond the normal course of the once every other month schedule. There are various reasons for a special meeting. Most frequently, it is because legislation has required the State Board of Education to take action on an item that doesn't necessarily line up with our normal course of scheduled meetings. The most typical special meeting occurs in August, and that is to establish minimum scores required for graduation on state assessments. The reason it's in August is because that coincides with when the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction receives their results on those state assessments. Special meetings don't necessarily require your physical attendance. It is not uncommon for board members to call in and participate on those meetings by phone. After the meetings, the staff typically take the remainder of Thursday to pack up the materials, get back to Olympia, make contact with media to let them know what transpired at a meeting, and preparations for the next agenda happen as early as that following week. As ideas or questions occur to you as a board member, your first point of contact is generally the executive director, myself, or members of the executive committee who make a lot of the decisions about the next agenda and activities of the board going into the next meeting. Okay, so I hope that walkthrough was helpful. And as always, if you have any questions about what to expect during a meeting of the State Board of Education, please don't hesitate to give me a call.